Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. You're listening to the Iftar show on Revive FM 94.0. My name is Nabeela Raza. I'm the founder and CEO of Teach Me Islam app, who will be presenting for you today. I pray and hope that everybody has been having a blessed day of Ramadan today. I pray that everybody has been reaping the rewards that we have been given in this blessed month, and inshallah do keep us all in your du'as as well. Now today's personality of the session that I will be covering is somebody that is a great inspiration. It's very, very surprising and shocking to even try to encompass and imagine the kind of trials that she must have gone through. However, I will not be saying the name as of yet. I would like the listeners to try to see if they can tune in and also try to guess who this inspiration is. So this person was a queen. So she was a queen. She was the wife of one of the most powerful men to walk on this earth. She also lived an unparalleled, wealthy and luxury life. And yet she knew that her true home was in paradise. She had no attachment to this life, and she was not defined by the man she was married to. Her mind and her soul remained independent from her partner, and her heart was not a slave to his actions or beliefs. She is till today an everlasting example of a Muslim woman who chose the hereafter over all the glitz and glamour of this world, and whose love for Allah and His word, the oneness of Him, inspired her to take on the greatest tests having the greatest tyrant as a partner of all time, and gave her the true optimum status that she has. Now, if you have guessed by now or not, it is none other than Asiya alayhi salam radiyallahu anha. Asiya bint Muzahim, who was the wife of Fir'aun. As we all know, and as obviously within the description, he was the biggest tyrant to have ever walked on the face of this earth. You might think, if you don't already know, how did she, the wife of such a tyrant, become one of the most inspiring Muslim women of our history? Now, I'll go into a little bit about Asiya alayhi salam in regards to her life, about the story that we are all informed of, how she dealt with it, and how she ensured to be the person she was, and how she got through the other end. Now, Asiya radiallahu anha married Fir'aun through an arranged marriage, as it was tradition at the time. She saw the tortures and the hardships that her husband had inflicted on the people during his time of leadership in Egypt. So he obviously made her queen. She was the queen of Egypt. She, as mentioned, had all the glitz and glamour, the wealth, the pearls, the diamonds, as you can wish for, during her lifetime, especially obviously as she was married to him as well. However, she, from the day dot, she never agreed or took part in these afflictions, in these torments that her partner was doing on others. She was a very, very down-to-earth, grounded person. Character was of humbleness, humility. She had the qualities that everyone wanted even around her. So the maids of the palace, she would often spend time with them. She would often be with them. She would not treat them as if they were below her or she was above them. She treated them as an equal. So this brings me on to one of those events where she happens to be by the shore with the maids one day, where the basket, as we all are informed, must know the story of baby Musa alayhi salam, which was during the time of the leadership of Fir'aun, when he was told by a fortune teller that there will be a baby boy, a child that will be born in this within the country of Egypt, within his tribe, that will grow up to take his position. This, of course, hit a nerve with Fir'aun, and he took drastic measures to try to eliminate that from ever coming true to reality. What did he do? He had ordered the soldiers and the army of the time to go around every single household within that time that this took place, to eliminate all baby boys, or all men or boys in general. Now, during this time, Musa alayhi salam's mother was petrified. She didn't want to protect her son like any mother would. She didn't know what to do because the soldiers would find him, Fir'aun would find them, and of course they all knew what that meant. So Allah had ordered and had informed Musa alayhi salam's mother to put her child, baby Musa, a newborn child, into a basket and push him out to the River Nile. She did ask for one thing. The mother asked for the safety and security of her child and for the child to be returned back to her, which Allah also kept. Now, during this time when, as you can imagine, for all the mothers out there, and me as an aunt, me as a sister, etc., I can't imagine what Musa's mother was going through at that period of time, where she had to put her newborn child in a casket and into the river with the conviction and tawakkul, the trust in Allah. As she did this, it happened to be that where would this casket go to or reach? It went to the shore of the tyrant himself. So this just so happened that Asya radiallahu anha was by the shore with the maids when the basket washed across to them near their castle. They assumed when they got the basket, when they saw the basket, they will find some sort of treasure or some sort of valuables within the basket. But to their surprise, and specifically to Asya anha's surprise, that it was a baby boy. And she instantly fell in love with the baby. As she had no children of her own, and she wanted children, of course, she then made it her mission to convince Fir'aun, the tyrant that's going around and killing every other child, every other male boy or baby boy. She had convinced Fir'aun to keep this child within their palace and not to kill it, as he was doing to all baby boys at the time, due to the fortune teller's message to him. Now, not only did that show perseverance and strength for her to stand up to Fir'aun when she knows what kind of a tyrant he was, and his biggest fear being that he didn't want someone to grow up within the tribe, within the country, that will take over his space, take over his title, his fortune, everything. She managed to convince him. Now, along the way, during this time, she took care of Musa alayhi salam as if it was her own. She loved him, nurtured him, cared for him. However, obviously Musa alayhi salam, there was a few hiccups along the way. As a baby, as a newborn child, they couldn't get him to be drinking or taking any form of nutrition in, and therefore Allah fulfilled His promise and got his mum into the palace, where he then was put into the arms of the mother and was told that she can take care of him until obviously he settles a little bit more and grows older. Now, as the years went on and Musa alayhi salam was old enough, he had been given the title of a prophet, which he started to preach and share the message of Allah, the oneness of Allah, to the people, the message of Tawheed. Asya alayhi salam straight away believed and took his word and became a firm believer. Whilst this, of course, you can imagine what the reaction of Fir'aun was. He was infuriated. She still stood firm. She did not hesitate. She did not falter. She didn't have any sort of doubt in her mind if this message of Tawheed that Musa alayhi salam was telling her was true or not, knowing that even if it wasn't true, etc., all the other doubts that could have been in her mind, that her partner, Fir'aun, was, he could really, really have a bad reaction to this. She didn't fear. She didn't fear him. She was so convicted in her willpower of believing in the message of oneness of Allah. This shows her strength in her iman. From day dot, from the very first day, shows the strength of her iman. Which brings me to the topic that I would like to touch upon mainly with the personality of Asya radiallahu anha, is her tawakkul, her conviction and her trust in Allah, that she believed in Him. Also, the fact of her taqwa, her God consciousness. She knew this is a message, and she knew straight away that it was the truthful message. She believed in Him. She believed in the message. She believed in Prophet Musa alayhi salam, not giving a shadow of a doubt to her partner Fir'aun. Yet despite this persecution, Asiya believed in Musa alayhi salam's message and held firmly in her faith. The faith was so strong she was willing to die for it. When Fir'aun found out that she believed, he did not take it lightly, as you can imagine. He did torture her. He did give her extra hardship and pain, for severe pain during this time. Now, did she give in? Did she think, okay, I can't deal with this torture, this physical torture or this emotional torture, I can't do it anymore. I don't believe in Allah, I don't believe in the message of Musa alayhi salam. No, she didn't. With all of that hardship and the tortures that she went through from her own partner, bear in mind, her own husband, being Fir'aun, had tortured her severely, she did not move or change her mind about believing in Allah. This shows, and this is the main inspiration to me and to us all, of how strong she was in her faith, how strong she was in her taqwa. We can all just aspire to be like such. May we all adopt the characteristics to get and reach to a level anywhere close to that. Ameen. Now, during this time, this part of when she was being tortured, she was being afflicted with pain, she was being afflicted with hardships by her own partner, what did she do? She actually did the same thing which Allah told Maryam alayhi salam, or told us in the Quran, when we are afflicted with hardship, to turn towards Him, to endure patience, and in salah to ask Him. This is exactly what Asiya radiallahu anha alayhi salam did. And in the Quran, the ayah goes, the wife of Fir'aun said, my Lord, build for me with thee a house in heaven, and save me from Fir'aun and his doings, and save me from the unjust people. Now this was her call out of help. You can call it a cry out of help, cry of desperation, but she didn't turn to anybody else. It didn't make her question her iman. It didn't make her question her faith. It made her stronger. If anything, she was certain that Allah will hear her call and He will help her. And this is exactly what Allah did. Allah saved, down the line, Allah saved her from Fir'aun. How? He ended Fir'aun, which we all, again, that's the rest of the story, which we know, that Fir'aun wanted to destroy Musa alayhi salam and the army when they were trying to escape, but Allah made a miracle happen yet again in this story. He made a river. He made a river split into half, which until today has never been heard of. He only did this, again, because of showing a miracle to Prophet Musa alayhi salam at the time. He was the prophet of the time. However, also to Asiya, because she asked that to save her not only from Fir'aun and his doings, but to save her from all unjust people. So Fir'aun and his army that believed in him so much, day in, day out, carried out all his tasks and commands and orders, they were finished. Allah had ended them, and ended them in such a way that Fir'aun is still, he's still looked at today to remind us that when Allah says something in the Quran, when He promises us something, He sticks by it. So this just shows again in terms of how her taqwa was, what level her taqwa was at, what level her iman was at. Being somebody that had, she had all the luxuries of the world. She was no shortage of wealth and the glitz and glamour of the world. However, she didn't want any of that. She just simply wanted to be a firm believer to Allah and live her life in peace. Now, Asiya radiallahu anha, she had no attachment to this life. She was not defined by the wickedness of the man that she married. Her mind and her soul remained independent, as we mentioned, from Fir'aun, as she was on a complete different spectrum to him, even from before the word of Islam came about to her. And her heart was not a slave to his beliefs. She refused to submit herself to the tyranny of her husband, but chose to devote her soul and her life to Allah. In the story of Asiya is an everlasting example of a woman who chooses the hereafter over this world. Now this brings me to and reminds me of an authentic hadith where our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ mentions ad-dunya sijnul mu'min wa jannatul kafir, that this world may seem like a prison because it's got restrictions, we've got rules, we've got do's and don'ts in this world. It will seem like a restricted prison, just the way in prison there's rules. And the remaining of the hadith says, and it is paradise for disbeliever. Why does it say paradise? Because they have no rules and regulations. They don't have certain restrictions in how they can live their life and how they can live their lifestyle, how they can act towards other people, how they can manage themselves and carry themselves. Whereas we as Muslims, we do. How and where? It's mentioned in the Quran. Allah tells us exactly what we can and can't do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, how we should act, how we should behave, how we should treat other people. It's all mentioned for us in the Quran. And that's why this world isn't meant to feel like bliss. It's not meant to feel like paradise, because the real paradise, our Creator is telling us in the Quran that the real paradise, as He describes Jannah in the Quran, is something that is unimaginable for us. Our small minds can't even comprehend it. So the fact that Asiya alayhi salam, she understood this. She did not fall into the trap of the luxuries of this world. Which brings me to the point where what lessons can we take from this? What lessons can we derive from Asiya alayhi salam, from her strength of God consciousness, from her strength in her iman, from her strength in putting up with such hardships and trials, having Fir'aun as a husband? Only she knows. Again, that's something that I myself aspire to. She's a role model there. She's there for us to feel inspired by, but also aspire to be like. Again, she's mentioned in the Quran as one of the very few women that are mentioned in the Quran. Why? Because Allah wants us to take lessons from her life, from her story. He wants us to become closer to our destination, which is Jannah, inshallah. Now, when it comes to how can we, in today's day and age, how can you and I implement this, and how can we become like Asiya alayhi salam, and how can we, even reach her level? We can try. We can start. Yeah, we can start, and we can try that from now, every single day. If we really put our trust, tawakkul, if we really put our trust and faith in Allah, He will never fail us. As it takes great strength to hold on to patience and perseverance in trusting in Allah, there is a saying in Urdu that, as mentioned previously as well, that when we are patient, the fruits of it is sweet. Patience, tawakkul, taqwa, they all are ingredients, or they all come hand in hand that will nurture us, that will allow us to become more like these inspirational women in Islamic history. The other thing I wanted to touch upon is when we are going through something in our life, how do we show tawakkul to Allah? Is that we do everything in our willpower to help ourselves and help our situation, but also we don't despair, we don't give up, we don't question Allah, because that shows that we don't trust Him. If you trusted somebody, for example, you're trusting your mother, you're trusting your sister, you're trusting your business partner, you trust them because you've built that relationship. So even if they told you, gave you a response and said, don't worry, I will do this, we will see through to this and we will get this result, you trust them because you've built that trust. In the same way, if you start saying, you say to your mother, yeah, I trust you to, for example, help me, guide me towards Islam. But when you're saying you're trusting them, but then you start questioning them, but why didn't you do it like this and why didn't you do it like that? That will make the other person on the other side feel like you don't trust them. It will demotivate them. It will make them feel, fine, you don't trust me, you can do it on your own way. In the same way, Allah wants to see us full-heartedly, 100% trust Him. As there is one of my favorite Quranic ayats in the Quran is Makaru wa makarullah wallahu khairul makirin, which means Allah mentions that you plan and I plan. Or He mentions about us, the humans, that we plan and He plans, but Allah is the best of planners. Why does He say that? It's because He is Ar-Rahman. He is Rabbul Alameen. He is in charge of everything, every matter. However, He wants to see how we react to His plan. Do we trust it? Do we trust the journey? As the famous saying, even in corporate worlds and businesses, they say, trust the process. Here, Allah is saying that I am telling you, you can plan and I plan, but ultimately my plan is the best one because I am the best of planners. If we truly believe in that, and if we truly put our tawakkul into that, the ayah itself, we will inshallah see the fruits of it. As He doesn't mention this ayah once, He does repeat it in the Quran a few times. Now, how do you and I trust in Allah when we in all of our affairs? It's simple. Through the Quran. Read over His promises in the Quran. He is the best of planners. He is the Lord of the universe. He is the one that makes everything happen. It's easy for Him. Kun fayakun. He says and it is. It becomes. It's as easy as that. Now, alongside Asiya alayhi salam was a queen. She, as mentioned, she had no shortage of the luxuries of this world. She could have easily taken advantage of that and thought, well, I'm the queen. I've got everything I need. But she truly understood the hadith that I mentioned, that this world is not meant to be paradise, not meant to be Jannah for us believers, because there are restrictions, there are do's and don'ts with reasoning and benefits for us within them. Now, what I would like to also go towards on this topic is having that tawakkul, having that God consciousness in Allah. How can we implement it in our lives? I would like to touch upon a hadith, a very well-known hadith and a saying of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It involves a camel, which you might have come across and you might have also known about. It's narrated by Tirmidhi, the book that it's derived from. The hadith outlines the story of a Bedouin man who was leaving his camel without tying it. The Prophet ﷺ asked him, why don't you tie down your camel? The Bedouin responded, I put my trust in Allah. Yet he did not tie his camel, but he puts his trust in Allah without doing anything himself before he puts his trust in Allah. So he's left it fully towards Allah. The Prophet ﷺ then replied, tie your camel first and then put your trust in Allah. It seems simple. Tie the camel, trust in Allah, go about your business. But you and I both know that trusting in Allah's plan is possibly one of the hardest things you and I should, or even do act out. Trusting in Allah's plan is known, as mentioned, is tawakkul, a concept that shows up all over the Quran on many times, and hadith. For instance, whoever relies upon Allah and He is sufficient for him, and we accept that He is sufficient for us, indeed Allah will accomplish His purpose. Now this is Allah's promise to us. Allah has already set for everything a decree and extent. It is linked to the essence of the word Islam, literally translated into English as submission. In other words, submission to Allah, our taqwa, our God consciousness of Allah. Even though it might seem simple, it's easy for me to say now, you should have tawakkul, we should have patience, we should do all these things. It's harder to put it into action. And that's why, as I do recall mentioning, that there's always two things on how we can react to something, through words or through actions. The better is the latter one, through actions. Now, trust means giving up control to a certain extent. When a friend trusts another with a secret, they give up that control over where that secret could possibly go. In a world and a time where it feels like there is nothing we can control, to trust that it'll be all right may feel even riskier than the actual situation. In the case of the camel, it is entirely possible that if the man had left the camel without tying it, it might have stayed put, it might have stayed there. It is also possible that it wouldn't have stayed there. it is also possible that even if he did tie the camel, it still might have somehow got loose and got away. But the main aspect is tawakkul. In this case means trusting Allah. Even though you're tying it, you're doing your best yourself, and then you're saying, Allah, I've got my trust in you, bi'ithnillah. That is us saying, we've done our bit and now it's you. It's not saying, oh, Allah, you told me to trust you without me trying, without me doing anything. I need you to ensure that you keep this camel tied, or you keep my goods safe. That's not tawakkul. Tawakkul is when we actively do our part to the best of our ability and then relying upon Allah. That at the same time, whatever the result may be, even after relying upon Allah and doing our best, is for the best. A lot of people say, for example, even with this camel, if he was to tie the camel and he left he put tawakkul in Allah, he put his trust in Allah, he came back and the camel was still gone. For him to resiliate and say, that's what I get for showing tawakkul, that's what I get for not being able to show that, it is wrong. Showing tawakkul emphasizes and tells us that whatever the decision Allah makes, we truly and wholeheartedly believe in Him and understand that this is for the best, that He is the best. Makaru wa makarullah, wallahu khairul makirin. Now, I would like to also touch upon in regards to the ayah of Asiyah alayhi salam in the Quran, where she mentioned, and Allah mentioned as well, and Allah sends forth an example for the believers. The wife of Fir'aun, she said, my Lord, build for me in nearness to you a mansion in the garden of paradise, and save me from Fir'aun and his doings, and save me from the unjust people. Now this verse is one that Allah mentions. He emphasizes her name in the Quran, which is an honor and privilege in itself. He then further allows us to understand what she did to deal with her calamity and trial. She had tawakkul in Allah. She responded with it by turning to Allah, because she knew that the message of Musa alayhi salam about Tawheed, about the oneness of Allah, was the haqq, was the truth. I hope from this we can understand that the personality and the character traits that we can take, not fall into the trap of this dunya with the glitz and glamour of this world. We can try our best to aspire to be like Asiyah alayhi salam. We can try our best to learn from her story, to learn the lessons from her story, and to ensure that we implement it within our life, because it's possible, we can. It may not be the same scenario as hers during her lifetime. However, everybody's story is different. None of us have go through the exact same tests or the exact same stories or situations in our life. So taking away the lessons that you've learned from Asiyah alayhi salam today, inshallah, will help me and you for our foreseeable future in how to increase our taqwa. How do we actually put tawakkul in Allah? We fully have conviction in Him, but we also do our best on our part, whatever that may be. I pray that inshallah from this we can rectify our intentions, make it solid in our ways when it comes to learning about these role models, these female inspirational personalities that we have. They are an inspiration to us. They have been put in the Quran, the holy book that has not been changed since over 1400 years ago, when it was revealed in its original form to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the reason why it's still in its original form is because it's a guidebook. It's a book for us to learn from. So let us take this as a lesson to learn and take whatever it may be from the personality of Asiyah alayhi salam into our own life, inshallah. May we be like Asiyah alayhi salam as best as we can. May we be able to have the same tawakkul and passion and drive as Asiyah alayhi salam, the conviction that we will be able to aspire the younger generation, the younger leaders of the ummah right now. May we all be like her, inshallah, in our character. May we be able to also meet and be in conversation with Asiyah alayhi salam in Jannah. Ameen. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وإسرافنا في أمرنا وثبت أقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
This iftari is sponsored by London Pizza Depot, Taj Grill and Cameron Adams.
اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم إني لك صمت وبك آمنت وعليك توكلت وعلى رزقك أفطرت. وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله في الأولين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الآخرين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت سيدنا ومولانا محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة والدرجة الرفيعة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته وارزقنا شفاعته يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد.
This iftari is sponsored by London Pizza Depot, Taj Grill and Cameron Adams.
Thinking of selling or letting your property? Need someone reliable to find the best prospect for your home? Well, look no further. Cameron Adams is here to take care of all your needs. Our professional and experienced team will guide you through the entire process and ensure you find the right client for your property. For a no-obligation quotation, contact us now on 0208 558 2000. That's 0208 558 2000. Or visit us at 30 Church Lane in Leytonstone. Cameron Adams, always at your service.
Does your pizza excite you? London Pizza Depot invites you on a journey with our worldwide inspired pizzas. Be it the sizzling hearts of New York with the NYC hot dog pizza, or the cobble streets of Greece with our Greek goddess. Transport yourself with every bite. Our authentically prepared, hand-stretched dough, freshly diced veg, finest cuts of halal meat, and our 100% mozzarella cheese ensures the delivery of a masterpiece